My name is Joshua Ishaya, welcoming you to the program Back to Farm, a program designed to make agriculture attractive. Today on the program, we'll be talking about the effect of climate change and food security. Climate change could potentially interrupt progress toward a world without hunger. A robust and coherent global pattern is discernible of the impact of climate change on crop productivity that will have consequences for food availability. The stability of the whole food system may be at risk under climate change because of the short-term variability in supply. However, the potential impact is less clear at regional scales, but it's likely that the climate variability and change will exacerbate food security in areas currently vulnerable to hunger and undernutrition. Stay tuned and have a look.
Food security, like climate change, is a multifaceted issue. It is affected not only by obvious influences such as climate and weather, but also by soil commodity prices, trade and social policies, global politics, and population growth, to name just a few. Bringing the two together determine how climate change may impact food security in Nigeria. Climate encompasses the statistics of temperature, humidity, atmospheric pressure, wind, precipitation, atmospheric particle count, and other meteorological elemental measurements in a given region over a long period of time. Climate change is the drastic alteration in natural component of the atmospheric environment, with the resulting diverse responses such as the shift in weather variation or patterns involving overall and unprecedented changes in weather patterns, which may include unusual rain yield or precipitation temperature, destiny, or cloud look. Climate change is caused by factors that include oceanic processes, biotic processes, variation in solar radiation received by Earth, plate tectonics, and volcanic eruption, and human-induced alteration of the natural world. These latter effects are currently causing global warming, causing the defrosting of ice in the Arctic and Antarctic region, and climate change is often greatly and mostly caused by human-specific impacts. The public have also been blamed for their contribution to climate change that is affecting food security in Nigeria. In the bid to meet our energy needs, Nigeria over-dependent on the use of fossil fuel, which leads to the release of toxic gases like greenhouse gases, mainly carbon dioxide, and methane into the atmosphere. Fertilizers used in our farms to improve crop yield are also petrochemical products which also affect the atmosphere negatively. Excess fertilizer escapes from field as gases into the atmosphere. The use of synthetic nitrogen fertilizer has accelerated the increase in nitrous oxide in the last few decades. Other farming and lumbering activities like tree felling and bush burning lead to deforestation and the resultant emission, which saturates the Earth's atmosphere and consequently results into thicker cloud layers with diverse consequences on climate weather conditions. When all this occurs, the result is increase in temperature and rainfall variation, resulting to drought and desertification in some regions and some parts flooding. All these have been threatening food security in Nigeria and need urgent attention of Nigerian government and populace. Global warming, instigated climate change has profound outcome in disruption to seasonal cycles and instability and predictability of ecosystem with diverse effects on agricultural production in general, but specifically in water need and food production. Changes in rainfall patterns have a disruptive effect on planting seasonal cycles. Later or much earlier rain has affected farming planting season. This often leads to unusual sequence in crop planting and replanting. Usually, late or delayed rainfall extend period of dry season with delayed planting period. The adverse effect of climate goes beyond the consequence of extreme weather, impracticability of rainfall, and change in rainfall yield. It goes a long way to affect the availability of wholesome food for the consumption of man and animal. These in turn will make food price go up, accessibility of food to the poor even more difficult. Now, food security. It is generally accepted that the term food security means the simplest term access to nutrition food. Food security refers to the availability of food and one access to it. Household is considered food secure when its occupants do not live hunger or the fear of starvation. It is a measure of resilience to future disruption on unavailability of critical food supply due to various risk factors. The World Trade Organization described three facets of food security as food availability, food access, and food use. Food availability is having sufficient quantities of food on a constant basis. Food access is having sufficient resources, both economic and physical, to obtain appropriate food for a nutritious diet. Food use is the appropriate use of based on knowledge of basic nutrition and care as well as adequate water and sanitation. According to their research, about 925 million people in the world are chronically hungry due to poverty, while many families and countries lack food security intermittently due to varying degrees of poverty. Food security is the single greatest danger of climate change to vulnerable human population. Indeed, to all humanity, understanding the specific impact of climate change on food security is challenging because vulnerabilities are unevenly spread across the world and ultimately depend on the ability of communities and countries to cope with risk. In the context of food security, some regions of food might experience gains under climate change, but developing countries are likely to be negatively affected. That is because there are multiple adverse impacts of global warming and disruption on agriculture, and all of these impacts will increase as the global temperature increases. Climate related threats to global food production include risks to grain, vegetable, and fruit crops, livestock, and fisheries. Reduce yield. The productivity of crop and livestock, include milk yields, may decline because of high temperature and drought-related stress. Increase irrigation. Regions of the world that now depend on rain-fed agriculture may require irrigation, bringing higher costs and conflict over access to water. Planting and harvesting changes. Shifting seasonal rainfall patterns and more severe precipitation events and related flooding may delay planting and harvesting. More pests. Insect and plant pests may survive or even produce more often each year if cold winters no longer keep them in check. New pests may also invade each region as temperature and humidity conditions change. Lower latitude pests may move to higher latitude. For example, risks to fisheries. Shift in the abundance and types of fish and other seafood may hurt commercial fisheries, while warmer waters may pose threats to human consumption, such as increasing the risks of infectious disease. Extreme ocean temperatures and ocean acidic affiliation place coral reefs, the foundations of many of these world fisheries, at risk. As with health risks, nations and individuals do not bear threats to the global food supply equally. Nations that lose arable land and critical fisheries may not have the resources or climate to pursue reasonable cost options for maintaining food security. Some nations are also more vulnerable to unfavorable international trade agreements and regional strife that may interrupt food disruption. Impact on crops. Trying to understand the overall effect of climate change on your food supply can be difficult. Increase in temperature and carbon dioxide can be beneficial for some crops in some places, but to realize this benefit nutrient level, soil moisture, water availability, and other conditions must also be met. Changes in the frequency and severity of drought and flood could pose challenges for farmers and ranchers. In some areas, however, if warming exceeds the crop optimum temperature, yield can decline. Many weeds, pests, and fungi thrive under warmer temperature, wetter climates, and increased water levels. Currently, farmers spend more than $11 billion per year to fight weeds in the United States. The range of weeds and pests are likely to expand northwards. These will cause new problems for farmers cropped previously unexposed to these species. Moreover, increased use of pesticide and fumigicide may negatively affect human health. Impact on livestock. Changes in climate could affect animals both directly and indirectly. Heat waves, which are projected to increase with climate change, could directly threaten livestock. A number of states have each reported losses of more than 5,000 animals from just one heat wave. Heat stress affects animals both directly and indirectly. Over time, heat stress can increase vulnerability to disease, reduce fertility, and reduce milk production. Drought may threaten pasture and feed supplies. Drought reduces the amount of quality forage available to grazing livestock. Some areas could experience longer, more intense drought, resulting from higher summer temperature and reduced precipitation for animals that rely on grain. Changes in crop production due to drought could also become a problem. Climate change may increase the prevalence of parasites and disease that affect livestock. The earlier onset of spring and warmer winter could allow some parasites and pathogens to survive most easily in areas that increase rainfall. Moisture-resilient pathogens could thrive. Increase in carbon dioxide may increase the productivity of pasture, but may also decrease their quality. Increase in atmospheric water can increase the productivity of plants on which livestock feed. However, studies indicate that quality of some of the forage found in pastureland decrease with higher water. As a result, cattle would need to eat more to get the same nutritional benefit. Flood in most cases have been found to reduce the grazing land and hence the quantity of grass for the cattle. Impact on fisheries. Many fisheries already face multiple stresses, including overfishing and water pollution. Climate change may worsen these stresses. In particular, temperature changes could lead to significant impact. Shift in the abundance and types of fish and other seafood may hurt commercial fisheries, while warmer waters may pose threats to human consumption, such as increasing the risk of infection disease. Extreme ocean temperature and ocean acidification place coral reefs, the foundation of many of the world fisheries, at risk. The ranges of many fish and shellfish species may change. Many marine species have certain temperature ranges at which they can survive. For example, cod in the North Atlantic require water temperature below 54 degrees. Even sea bottom temperature above 45 degrees can reduce their ability to reproduce and for young cod to survive. In this century, temperature in the region will likely exceed both thresholds. Many aquatic species can find colder areas of streams and lakes or move northwards along the coast or in the ocean. However, moving into new areas may put these species into competition with other species over food and other resources, as explained on the ecosystem impact page. Some diseases that affect aquatic life may become more prevalent in warm water. For example, in southern New England, lobster catches have declined dramatically. A temperature-sensitive bacterial shell disease likely caused the large die of events that led to the decline. Changes in the temperature and seasons could affect the timing of reproduction and migration. Many steps with an aquatic animal life cycle are controlled by temperature and changing of the season. For example, in the northeast, warmer water temperature may affect the life cycle of salmon and increase the likelihood of disease, combined with other climate impact. These effects are projected to lead to large declines in salmon population. In addition to warming, the world oceans are gradually becoming more acidic due to the increase in the atmospheric carbon dioxide. Increasing acidity could harm shellfish by weakening their shells, which are created from calcium, are vulnerable to increased acidity. Acidification may also threaten the structure of sensitivity ecosystem upon which some fish and shellfish rely. International impact of climate change. Internationally, the effect of climate change or agriculture on food supply are likely to be similar to those seen in the United States. However, the stressors such as population growth may magnify the effects. For example, in developing countries, adaptation options like changes in crop management or ranching practices or improvement to irrigation are more limited than in the United States and other industrialized nations. Warmer temperature changes. Changes in rainfall patterns and more extreme weather under climate change are expected to affect food and further production. Change pattern of pests and disease of crops and animals and impact on food supplies. Countries where these impacts are expected to be negative, also those countries to short-term food price spikes and longer term climate change is likely to be an important factor in future price trends. Volatile food prices are a particular concern to the poor, who often spend a high proportion of their income on food. What does climate change mean for food security? At the urban scale, reduced food production, especially of staple food crop, means reduced food supply and food unavailability, while imports can potentially and partially cover such food gaps. Evident from across the country abounds on the impetus of some government in instituting such interventions on time, if at all, against that liability exchange entitlement driven urban food market, which are highly volatile to unstable, erratic food supplies, will predictably respond through prices rises. Increased price will also make food unaffordable, especially by working class and urban poor. The destruction of road networks has in no little way contribute to non-uniform distribution of food and in most cases result into food wastage as they could not transport to be processed in plants. There is a real and unincreased risk of climate change induced urban food riots occurring in the future. Inevitably, food prices increase will also lead to an alteration of food consumption patterns, either through changing dietary habits. So dietary adaptation strategies will have direct negative effect on human nutrition and health. For those who afford expenditure on food will increase in proportion to price increase, with accompanying erosion of disposable income for other household necessities. Furthermore, a reduction in food production suggests direct impact on jobs and associated incomes, thereby curtailing such groups' ability to access food and basics. Another dimension relates to how climate change linked with and rising temperature will impact food utilization in urban settings. High temperature will require food storage and safety techniques that can withstand diverse adverse radiation. Current refrigeration system are an obvious storage option, but how many urban poor and working class and village own refrigerators? Their food storage and safety techniques are pressured by current temperatures. Hence, increased temperature can only worsen their plight. High temperature will also mean perishable food products will have a short shelf life, thus requiring immediate consumption. This will affect food preservation and conservation strategies at household level, since emergency ration will be eaten sooner than previously planned. Inevitably, such haphazard consumption patterns will affect household financially budget. The effect of rising temperature in conjunction with reduced food production will also mean preferred food products will not be ordinarily available in urban food market. With limited choice in the urban food system, consumption of undesirable food will be widespread. There are numerous effects of climate change on agriculture, many of which are making it harder for agricultural activities to provide global food security. Rising temperatures and changing weather patterns often result in lower crop yields due to water scarcity caused by droughts, heat waves, and flooding. These effects of climate change can also increase the risk of several regions suffering simultaneous crop failures. Currently, this risk is regarded as rare, but if these simultaneous crop failures did happen, they will have significant consequences for the global food supply. Many pest and plant diseases are also expected to either become more prevalent or to spread to new regions. The world livestock are also expected to be affected by many of the same issues, from greater heat stress to animal feed shortfalls and the spread of parasites and vector-borne diseases. The increased atmospheric level from human activities, mainly burning of fossil fuel, causes a fertilization effect. The effect offsets a small portion of the detrimental effect of climate change on agriculture. However, it comes at the expense of lower level of essential micronutrients in the crops. Furthermore, water fertilization has little effect on crops like maize. On the cost, some agricultural land is expected to block sea level rise, while melting glaciers could result in less irrigation water being available. On the other hand, more arable land may become available at frozen land thaws. Other effects include erosion and changes in soil fertility and the length of growing season. Also, bacteria like Salmonella and fungi that produce mycotoxin grow faster as the climate warms. Their growth has negative effects on food safety, food loss, and prices. There has been extensive research on the effects of climate change on individual crops, particularly on the four staple crops: rice, wheat, and soybeans. These crops are responsible for around two-thirds of all calories consumed by humans, both direct and indirect, as animal feed. The research investigates important uncertainties, for example, future population growth, which will increase global food demand for the foreseeable future. The future degree of soil erosion and groundwater depletion are further uncertainties. On the other hand, a range of improvement to agricultural yield, collectively known as green revolution, has increased yields per unit of land area by between 250% and 300% since the 1960s. Some of that process will likely continue. The scientific consensus is that global food security will change relatively like in the near term. 720 million to 811 million people were undernourished in 2021, with around 200,000 people being at the catastrophic level of food insecurity. Climate change is expected to add an additional 8 to 80 million people who are at risk of hunger by 2050. The estimated range depends on the intensity of future warming and the effectiveness of adaptation measures. Agricultural productivity growth will likely have improved food security for hundreds of millions of people by then. Predictions that reach further into the future are rare. There are some concern about the effects on food security from more extreme weather events in future. Nevertheless, at this stage, there is no expectation of a widespread global famine due to climate change within the 21st century.
The Agricultural Research Council of Nigeria (ARCN) coordinates the activities of research institutes and is responsible for supervision, regulation, coordination of research activities and programs of higher institutions in Nigeria. I'm Professor Hamidu Shaributu since assumption as Executive Secretary of ARCN in April 2020 has solidified the transformation of agriculture in Nigeria through strategic and meaningful execution of research findings for improvement of the agricultural sector, with studios parading state-of-the-art equipment.
The Agricultural Research Council of Nigeria also has a brand new electronic library to further promote research and visualizations of deep thoughts on agricultural development in Nigeria.
The museum, located in the Senator Abdullahi Adamu Center, is an agricultural museum saddled with the responsibility of keeping records of agricultural findings, discoveries, researches for continuity and history purposes.
ARCN,
promoting agriculture. There is an emerging consensus that changes in the temperature and precipitation that can have detrimental impact on food security of the most vulnerable people in the absence of adaptation. However, the aggregate impact of climate change on food security is not fully understood. In particular, several of impacts that are difficult to quantify dependent on a range of assumptions. The available quantitative studies suggest that climate change will negatively affect food security at the global level in the long run. The research suggests that at the global level, climate change will reduce crop yields and the land suitable for agriculture production, with the greatest impact in tropical latitudes where the greatest food security challenges persist. Many thanks for staying also on the program Back to Farm, where we look at the effects of climate change in agriculture. My name is Joshua Ishaya. Bye for now.